Well, if the argument is that the key to victory and the Republican Party is aligning itself with Donald Trump, it worked again in Pennsylvania and Nebraska, where Trump-backed candidates, or at least Trump-pro candidates, were the ones who picked up the W's last night in their respective primaries. Now, keep in mind that is not a slam dunk, particularly in states like Pennsylvania, where they just redistricted the entire Keystone State, and that could just, on paper, favor Democrats now. In a lot of what used to be red solid Republican districts, at least 3 of which could go this time solidly Democrats. So that's 3 easy pickups right there. That's the kind of win that a lot of Republicans are facing in just one key state. Let's get the read now from former Bush 43 writer Ned Ryun, the Federalist staff writer Bre Payton, and Democratic strategist Andrew Feldman. Andrew, begin with you. Democrats typically look at developments like what's going on in Pennsylvania and redistrict as easy pickups that favor their party, your party, where you need 23 seats to gain control of the United States House of Representatives. What is your thought on just that?
Look, Pennsylvania is critical. It's going to be critical to picking up the House. I don't want us to take anything for granted. We need to keep on running our races. Very good night in Pennsylvania for Democrats last night. 6 women won their primaries. That is a really good sign going into November. There is a strong wave of not only men running for office, but women running for office, and I think that's going to be a great contrast to what the Republicans have to offer. And I think what we're seeing here is that, we're going to run each race based on what matters in that local district, like we saw in Pennsylvania earlier this year. And I think that's going to play big dividends here in Pennsylvania and across the country for us coming in November.
All right, well, memory serves you right. Republicans are running some women as well, but I understand what you're saying. But, Bre, I am looking at the Republican candidates who succeeded in the last 2 weeks, and they either were backed by Donald Trump or were saying they were the strongest of the pro-Trump candidates, and they all had big victories. Now, of course, that helped with their funding, but I'm wondering what it portends going forward.
I think it says a lot about the state of the Republican Party. I think Donald Trump's rising approval ratings isn't necessarily something that's attached to the Republican Party itself. I think that Republican voters, I think conservatives care about things that Republicans have demonstrated time and time again that they do not care about. They don't care about fiscal responsibility. They don't care about cutting spending. They haven't defunded Planned Parenthood, and Obamacare is still the law of the land. I think it's very clear that Donald Trump is the only one who's serious about making good on promises, and he's not making steps to suck up to leadership to do that, like all the other Republicans in Congress right now. So as a voter, I think they're looking at Donald Trump as someone who's going to make good on these promises, and they're going to, be looking at Republicans who model themselves after Donald Trump as someone who might actually make good on their word, might do what they say they're going to do. All
right. As you were speaking, we were showing this latest Real Clear Politics. Average of polls. And that's why we use the Real Clear one. It's an average of polls that makes up for those that have the president, even lower, polls like Rasmussen that have them over 50%. This averages all of them out. We play no favorites here. We average them all out. And the trend has indeed been the president's friend. Now, Ned, how long do you see that continuing? Because it's no accident, I think, with the pickup in his poll numbers that the chances of Republicans, certainly in the Senate, and even widening their numbers, has improved, as their prospects in the House. What do you think?
No, I totally agree. In fact, I would actually encourage people to go look at the state-level polls in some of these key Senate races and look at Trump's approval numbers in those, like Montana, West Virginia, and North Dakota. Neil, he's around or above 60% in those key Senate races and states. So I actually like Republicans' chances to actually gain seats in the Senate this fall. And I got to tell you, looking at this congressional generic ballot coming into this year, Democrats were up anywhere from 12 to 15 points. Now they're up only 5 points in the Real Clear Politics average. But in some of those, they're only up a point, 3 points. And if you go back and look at May of 2014, Neil, it's pretty interesting to look at the same numbers. Democrats were up anywhere from 1 to 4 points in the spring of 2014. And guess what? They ended up losing 13 seats in the fall. And I'm not saying the dynamics of 2014 and 2018 are the same, but it is kind of a little bit of a guide mark to say this whole blue wave that people have been talking about and saying is going to happen. I am not convinced of it at all. In fact, I looked at some numbers from last week's primaries in West Virginia, Indiana, Ohio, North Carolina. Across the board in those 4 states, Republican turnout was up 48% over 2014 numbers. So you're seeing something as the poll numbers are going up for Trump. The enthusiasm gap is narrowing, and I would think the Republican base is really starting to wake up and engage on these midterms.